The UDRcast is not affiliated and does not represent any 12-step fellowship. I, Bill Ward, the host of the UDRcast, will be sharing my experience and my journey of recovery. That does include, but is not limited to, the literature contained in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps. Our guests will be sharing their own path to recovery and what has worked for them. The UDRcast encourages and supports all paths to recovery. Welcome everybody to the UDRcast. UDR stands for Uncover, Discover, and Recover. My name is Bill Ward, and I'm coming to you from the recovery capital of Canada, Calgary, Alberta. Here we are going to discuss everything recovery, different perspectives, different experiences, both with the people I know and with others from around the world. If you resonate with anything you've heard on this episode today, we ask that you share it with anyone who you think may benefit from it. If you have any questions or comments, please find us at BILLWARDLIFE and send us a message in the info section. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you are interested in more recovery content, you can find the buttons for the YouTube channel and other social media outlets on the homepage, and you will be redirected to those platforms. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time. Creator, thank you. Thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the beautiful weekend at the powwow that I was at, and saw so many amazing people and amazing dancers. Thank you, Creator, for allowing me to find my identity and my culture. Creator, I ask for your guidance today. I ask for your protection for the people out there who are struggling and suffering and who are confused. You know, there's lots lately. I ask, Creator, that you help them stay the course and find that clarity with your light, with your willingness and your perseverance into them. Creator, I ask for more prayers for some of the people that I know out there, like Pearl, who are suffering, and Robin, who's here today, and Crystal, and I could go on. I ask that you just watch over these people and keep their little spearhead sharp, keep them moving in the right direction. And when things get tough, show them that carrot. Creator, I ask for your guidance in a selfish way today, for my own open-mindedness and being willing to learn today and have a new experience with you and my fellows and the book and the program. I ask for your clarity of thought and clarity of words, articulation and experiences as I go through this literature today, the Step 7 most beautiful literature there is. And I thank you for my life today and my friends and all the people that are here for this last session today. It's the last session till the next one, because there's never really an end of anything. Thank you, Creator. Hi. So for just like a heads up, when we're struggling, like, I know it's good, you call people and you talk it out and you get some relief from talking to people. Can you guys make room for Pearl somewhere? We get a lot of relief from talking to people, okay? But you're only going to get relief, and the talking about your problems and your struggles and the suffering that you have is not going to go away because you just talk about it. Okay? And I've seen it so many times that, you know, that's all we want to do. So there's sponsors out there that'll fucking take their sponsees and just talk to them all fucking day. That's not what we do. If you want to recover from your fucking suffering, you're in the material. You're in the fucking books. You're fucking meeting and doing the work. Yeah, you can have those chats here and there, whatever. Fuck, that's fine. That's part of it. But the fucking book is where you find your solution. And I've seen so many people fucking miss that boat, and all they want to do is talk about their problems. Well, you actually are fucking praying when you're talking about your problems and it's just worry and fucking remorse and guilt. You're manifesting that shit. And you create more of it. And you get a sense of relief. Like in the step 11, it talked about self-examination, prayer, and meditation when taken separately bring much relief and benefit. So if you take any of those things separately and do nothing else with it, you get relief and benefit, but that's all you fucking get, and relief needs more relief always. But when these three things are logically related and interwoven, that's what makes for the unshakable foundation for life. We have to take the inventory to the prayer, to the fucking meditation, and just the inventory alone without the action will avail you fuck all. We have to constantly be moving in a direction of fucking positive thought, positive action, and positive motivation in our own life. Because if you sit there and just worry, you're actually praying for the worst possible fucking outcome. That's why prayer is so important, because you're actually praying for strength and you're praying for motivation to move forward in a good way. And the opposite of prayer is fucking worry. And worry is fucking sitting there in your own thoughts and talking about it nonstop. So the literature is actually designed to fucking switch that and move you in a direction. So just so you know that, okay? And I was talking to someone today, and they're struggling, and nothing's really going their way. And everyone, she told me, oh, well, everyone's telling me to pray. And she's like, I fucking know to pray. And she's like, I'm fucking praying. What's she not doing? Give me one answer. Working with others. 12 step, sober 2-3 years, not working with others. In the book it says it works when all other activities fail. What's the other activities? All the shit that we're doing. The prayer, the meditation, and the inventories. When that shit fails, working with another alcoholic will always save the day. And it talks about it in Bill's story. I was overcome with waves of depression and self-pity, and I soon realized that working with another alcoholic would always save the day. And that's the thing that most people don't want to do. And what you guys have heard me talk about, inventory can be very selfish. Because we won't work with others and we won't share our experience. We won't open our hearts with somebody. But we want to fucking feel better so bad. And what do? We go back to the inventory. And then people will do steps after steps after steps, and they don't fucking really get better. They get a little relief out of it. And they're like, what's wrong with me? I know what's wrong with you. And you're not healing the inner wounds by working with somebody else and learning what altruistic, like real altruism is. And that's a fucking huge part, right? I just went through step 1 with somebody the other day. And in the first page of the doctor's opinion, it says, he commenced to present as part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to others, impressing upon them they must still do likewise with others. That's part of fucking the program. That's part of recovery. It's not an optional part to me. It's the biggest, most important part of this whole fucking thing that people will not do because they just want to fucking get on with the business of being self-satisfied. And the problem is I got a disease of self. And I won't be satisfied when I live in self. Okay? And the book talks about resting on our laurels, which the definition of that is being self-satisfied, which is complacency. Complacency means to be satisfied with one's own self-life. But with us, you won't be. So, like, that shit's really important, man. And like the goal for us here should be at some point we want to work with others. And a lot of us do want to, and then we'll start, and then we'll stop. We don't stop. And why you have to learn how to fucking navigate sponsorship through the pain is because you don't navigate your recovery with no pain. These early years and months are fucking hard. But you fucking get down the road and you can go back. Look what I fucking learned. Holy fuck. And you built some character. You got some peace of mind. Like the promises say, we comprehend the word serenity and we know what peace is. And that doesn't come till you work through your bullshit for a while. And it's the same with sponsorship. You don't get the real gifts of sponsorship till you learn your fucking lessons of what it takes. Right? Working with the first 15 people, you will just barely develop a system. That's 15, 20 people in, and maybe not one of them you'll get through the steps. Not one. Most of them will bail on step 1. Most will never make it to step 4. But it's not about them. And it's not about what you think that you're failing at or anything. This disease is fucking powerful. And when you understand that people's behaviors isn't fucking them, it's the illness, then you'll fucking see this different. But you won't see it different till you keep sponsoring. 30 people in, you got a good system. And you know fucking some things. 70 people in, you're fucking getting good at this shit. 100 people in, you're fucking feeling the God dope. And most of those 100, you ain't getting through the book. And if you get good at this, you can get the people through the book. And if you really want to get good at this, you can. Right? Like, it's possible. I'm good at it today. I get most people that come to me through the fucking book. But my first fucking 50, maybe 2. Right? That's why this book's so dirty. Right here. It's dirty, like right to there, right? It's like fucking how it works. It's because that's where people make it to, man. They don't make it past there. And understanding that's important. And it's not about you. It's about fucking being of service. And you have nothing to do with what happens to somebody. Whether they leave you or fucking relapse or die. That's not you. That's the fucking illness. You stick around here long enough, you're going to be part of death. You're going to see death all the time. You're going to see people fucking up all the time. And that's fine. But that's why I do these, so you understand that this is fucking hard work. And if you fucking really want a good life, you got to fucking work for it. Because most people aren't. Okay, so we're on basically step 7, which is God's will, which most people in this program will not fucking get to unless you're fucking really digging in. Step 6 and 7 are not the same, they're different. I'm going to touch base on something on the first page of step 7 again. And I want to talk about the step 3 prayer and the step 7 prayer first. Okay? You guys can look at these prayers if you want. They're in the book. And you can look at them. How many people think that these 2 prayers are basically the same prayer? Okay? Most people think they're basically the same prayer. They're nothing alike. They look alike in principle, but they're actually much different. Because when you dissect what the words are, they're fucking very, very different. So the step 3 prayer starts with I offer, which is just an offering. That's kind of like I might. And then at the end of that step 3 prayer, it says, may I do thy will. And when you look up may, it's a possibility. So the step 3 prayer is maybe an offering. It's just a decision. But like any decision that you make without action, nothing is really there. So through the action aspects of this program, and especially the step 10, we can fucking actually learn what step 7 prayer means. And the step 7 prayer starts out as I am now willing, which is much different than I offer myself. I am fucking willing, Creator, that you should have all of me, the good and the bad. That means enough self-pity. Means not too much ego either. You can have all the good of me and the bad of me. There's balance in that statement. I now pray that you remove every single defect of character. So he's talking about defects still of the step 6 character that stand in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength, your strength, God, not mine. Grant me your strength as I go from here to do your bidding. And the word bidding's really fucking important in that prayer. Because the word bidding, when you look it up, and you guys can look this shit up at some point, it says to listen to what somebody or something says. So I now go to you, do your bidding, God. I'm going to listen to you. And when you look up the word bidding, you'll see another sidebar. It says to surrender in an overly slavish way. So it says surrender in an overly slavish way. And I was like, okay, what's slavish? And then slavish means without original thought or idea. So it's not any of my thoughts or idea. When I start surrendering, the goal is to get there without reservation. So that I act in love without reservation. Because usually when we're fucking looking at an opportunity to be of service or do something or make a choice, we always have a fucking split second of reservation. What am I going to lose? What am I not going to get? which determines how I actually navigate that situation. Through the practice of this program, especially step 10, you will get to a point where there will be no reservation and you will have surrendered in this overly slavish way without your original thought of self or your idea of how things should be, and you act right in love. And then the prayer ends with amen. Amen means contract. I've now stamped my life with yours, God, and we are on a contract, and I fucking honor this contract. And that kind of surrender is the step that separates the men from the boys. We are now seeking the perfect objective of God. And when I say perfect objective of God, I just mean perfect is love. You act in love because love is actually perfect. It's not that we're perfect and we try to live up to perfection, because that's a human fucking ideology that can be skewed to fit anybody's version of whatever that might be. But when you think of love, it actually means nothing and it's actually perfect. That's what we're trying to achieve in the step 7 surrender. And how do we get to that level of surrender? The only way to get to that level of surrender is to fucking understand step 6. And you fucking practice the step 6. Any person capable of enough willingness and honesty to try repeatedly step 6 on all his faults. Repeatedly, all your faults without reservation. And it's the without reservation that we're trying to work through. Has indeed come a long way spiritually. And therefore is entitled to be called a man who is sincerely trying to grow in the image and likeness of his Creator. And we all want that. We all want to grow in the image and likeness of these spiritual principles because we know it feels fucking better. Right? It is better. And, you know, in another book I read, Power versus Force, it kind of proves this with a whole bunch of different sentences that, like, show you how words are more powerful than the other words, right? I can't think of any of the examples right now. I should have brought the book, but you only learn that through step 6. You only learn that through humiliation and through pain. And that's why I say to people all the time, you never made a mistake. You're not making mistakes in your fucking journey of recovery. As long as you're willing to fucking grow and learn. You make a decision that you fucking grow and learn from, and you move on. Other people can say you made a mistake. Fuck them. That's their fucking opinion, their journey, and their ideologies of what a mistake is. But they don't know what your desire is. Because underneath all of it, you have a desire to fucking grow and to learn. And that's all that fucking matters. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. You're always growing in whatever the circumstance was, and you make a decision and you learn from it. If you ain't learning from it and you continue to make that mistake, you are very likely to fucking drink. And we know. The thing about this is as we clear the channel, you'll know. And you'll feel it. And almost every single one I've ever talked to on any given situation, when you fucking get to the nuts and potatoes of whatever the decision was or whatever happened, they fucking knew. And we have to clear that out and start listening to it. And what do I call that? I call it, I'm sharpening my intuition. It's so dull. And sharpening your intuition can come really in small, simple, straightforward steps. Like going to the store and you want to go to fucking McDonald's and you want to go to Arby's and you don't know which one to fucking choose. Pull over on the side of the road and fucking meditate on that for a second. One of them's going to pull you. I always get pulled to Arby's. So I'm sharpening my meditation. Right? I want to go to 2 meetings. What do? I sit and I'm like, okay. And then I get pulled in my like subconscious. It says go here. And then that's it. Boom. I'm fucking done. But then my brain likes to kick back in and say, well, rethink that. No, you got to learn how to not rethink it. You got to learn how to train that fucking intuition. And step 6 is the keys to this shit, okay? And then we get to step 7. And the beautiful stuff about step 7 is it talks about step 6 humility and step 7 humility. Step 6, humility, is fucking humbling through pain and humiliation. And step 7, humility, is that beautiful stuff of a desire to seek and do God's will. So on the first page, I'm just going to re-highlight something, and then I'm going to tell a little story. So humility. So humility is huge. Since this step so specifically concerns itself with humility, we should pause here to consider what humility is and what the practice of it can mean to us. Indeed, the attainment of greater humility is the foundation principle of each of AA's 12 steps. So it's the foundation principle of all the steps. And when you understand humility in the 3 levels that I explain it, you will understand that it is the foundation of step 1. The humiliation and admission you're an alcoholic is fucking humbling and fucking humiliating. Turning your will and your life over to God in step 3 is fucking humbling and humiliating for the egocentric alcoholic. Even the idea of God in step 2 is humiliating, because who wants to believe in a fucking God you hated your whole life? Right? So, and the 4, you learn about yourself, and it's humiliating and humbling. But in that 3 and 4 area, you start having a bit of a desire to change and be something different. So under the surface, there's a desire to do something better, right? And then you fucking get into the rest of the steps, and it's all built in humility. And it changes too, from the 2 bottom levels to the top level. And then eventually it becomes mostly the top level. And where is all this shit worked? It's worked exactly in your step 10. So just to highlight, your step 10 is pretty much your most important thing to fucking really try to ingrain in your life. Because that will change things for you. But if you just fucking guess what step 10 is, and you guess what God's will is, and you don't follow the exact directions, it's kind of like putting together your recovery as a motor. You can put together a motor and kind of get all the fucking parts in, and fucking there's a few pieces left over. Then you fire it up and the motor runs, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need those pieces. But that motor is only going to run for so long, and then it's going to blow up. Right? Those pieces, those little pieces that you didn't think were that important, they're actually really important for longevity and long-term sobriety. Okay. So it is the foundation principle of all the steps. Understanding what I say about humility in the 3 levels is super important. And understanding what altruism is also super important. Altruism is the ability to unselfishly devote oneself to the welfare, happiness, and well-being of others. That equals the top level of humility. Because I am unselfishly devoted myself to service of God and my people. The mid-level of fucking altruism is I do it because it makes me feel good. And that's kind of the same as the humbled through pain. And then the bottom level of altruism is I'm doing it to save my life. So it's an altruistic act. But I'm doing it because it just saves my life. So altruism and humility are exactly kind of the same. And it's the same on your path through recovery. So, for without some degree of humility, no alcoholic can stay sober at all. Nearly all AAs found too that unless they develop much more of this precious quality than may be required for sobriety, they still haven't much of a chance of becoming truly happy. That's what we're fucking looking for. I need to develop, it says, develop much more of this precious quality. So it just doesn't come because I want it. It needs to be developed and it needs to be nurtured. And how do we do that? Well, I was sitting one day about 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm reading this literature, and I'm looking at these pages again, and and shit's just coming to me, and I'm like, precious stone. What's the most precious stone? Some of you might have heard this story. Diamond's the most precious stone on earth. And how do we get that diamond? We have to fucking explore. We have to fucking do seismic. Seismic is an operation where they lay cables on the ground and then they blow dynamite. They read the vibrations of the ground and they try to pinpoint where these diamonds are at under the ground. And usually these resources, like diamond is an inner resource and we have an inner resource. The diamond is usually in Africa or other places and they're way out in the mountains. They got to build roads into these places. They got to go where no man's gone and they got to plow fucking shit apart. And they got to build roads, knock down trees and fucking, they want this shit, right? And we want genuine humility. So as they go find these mines and they start fucking planting dynamite in the side of the mountain, now they're blowing up fucking huge, thousands upon thousands of, hundreds of thousands of tons of material. And they're blowing up mountains. And then they bring in the biggest of excavators and they start moving all this fucking material. And they're fucking moving millions of tons of material to find these little fucking pockets of diamonds. That's what the steps are doing. We're going into our fucking places where you can't go, where you got to build roads in, where no one's ever been. We're planting fucking diamonds, which is steps, and fucking resentment inventory, and fear inventory, relationship inventory. And then we're fucking doing it in step 5s. We're getting answers in meditations. We're blowing up the sides of these mountains with the fucking steps. And we're sifting through all of this material and moving it with dump trucks. And we're using pillars and pen to paper. And then they find these fucking diamonds. So we find some truth about ourselves. And then they fucking have to move these diamonds and they start cutting them up and shaping them. That's what we're doing. We're going through the pain. We're blowing up our fucking lives. We're fucking going through it. We're actually growing through it. And then as we start cutting up these diamonds, now we're starting to shape and build our character. And then they fucking cut these diamonds and then they're pristine and they're fucking beautiful. And it's so beautiful to look at. And everyone wants one. It's exactly the same with the humility, the desire to seek and do God's will. People want that shit. It's shiny, it's beautiful. You see people with that, you fucking want that shit. Because it's fucking beautiful. And you know that person who had it, they fucking had to blow up themselves to get that shit. And the pain and the suffering that they've gone through to get that, they fucking stayed the course because they knew that it was there. And it's in every one of us, right? And later down on this page, it talks about, without it, they cannot live to much useful purpose or in adversity be able to summon the faith that can meet any emergency. So when you find this diamond inside yourself and you fucking use this humility, this desire to seek and do God's will, and a lot of that comes in your purpose, in your fucking purpose of helping others, because when life is going to kick your ass, and life will kick your ass, you better be doing something that is really a purpose in your life, because whatever it is will take you fucking out. But if you have a reason to live, you can fucking help. You can be of service. You can be strong when other people are fucking falling down and weak. That's what we're talking about. And we need it. We need it to meet the emergencies because the tragedy's coming for all of us. Right, Janine?
Yes, Bill.
Awesome. She always combats me on that shit. Anyway, so not only is the idea of humility understood, the word itself is often intensely disliked. Many people haven't even a nodding acquaintance with humility as a way of life. We need it to be a way of life, not just part-time. Because the thing about this program is if you're not all in this game, then you're probably all out. Like the reality is half measures will avail you fucking relapse and fuck all. You got to be all in this like game that we're talking about, that I'm talking about. And it's worth it. And it is fucking hard, but it's worth it. You got to be all in. You can't be half in and half out. And some of you who have been in relationships and fucking felt the power of self fucking up your fucking psyche, and fucking God's right there, but you can't reach him because you're so fucking stuck in self because of a relationship. That's what I'm talking about. When you get stuck in self and it starts taking control, God's over there and he's there waiting for you, but you can't find him because you're so consumed with what you think it is that's going to keep you happy. Or your codependency that's just fucking clawing you back.
Bill, could you say a quick little ramble to people in early recovery just as a general statement of because I see a lot of people who, they look like they're all in and they would say that they're all in and then suddenly there's a relapse. Can you speak to that a bit?
And suddenly there's a relapse? Mm-hmm. Well, I can speak to it. I can only speak so much to it, right? Because the ego is so powerful. And when the ego thinks it's connected to God and it's fucking doing the thing, you can't convince that person that it's not. And really the only way is for them to either stay sober and keep growing and then realize that later, or they will relapse and go, okay, that theory of God thing is my experience.
What's the signs that you could look for as a sponsor?
Being in a relationship in your first year of sobriety. Fucking being in a job that's toxic, that allows you to sell out your soul for money or whatever service it's providing. Relationships with family that fucking cause you, or anybody that cause you continual disturbances. Because these patterns we've built with other people, we've taught them how to treat us. So it's really hard to let those go. And that's all they know, the other person. So they'll keep treating us the same way. And we'll fall into the old patterns. Which is why it's really important to stay single in your first year. So that you can build your new patterns. And when a bad pattern person comes, you can go, fuck that, red flag. I'm fucking out. But the thing about it is the desire for a relationship once the substances are gone is so fucking powerful that it's so hard to fucking say no to. Because it's the new drug. But it's not the drug, so it seems like it's better. And everyone in AA is spiritual, right? Not. But that's the perception when we're new. Everyone's running a good program. And then the ability for the alcoholic and addict to rationalize and justify the most errant nonsense to suit their actions. So I'm going to say another symptom would be not talking to your pillars. Isolating. Not talking to your sponsor. Fucking now work's more important and your kids are more important and the job's more important. You know. But usually you learn this shit through utter pain. And you don't have to though, but that's normally the case.
What about like over-sponsoring?
Over-sponsoring? I don't think you can over-sponsor. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Where do you get that idea from? Where do you come up with that idea, over-sponsoring? What are you thinking when you say that?
Did you give a name in your head? I just see some service work to the extreme, like it's the new drug, and then there's just not a lot of... But I think that you can do too much sponsoring when you're not doing the middle part of the program, like treatment center sponsoring, where they're like, okay, step one, get your step one solid, and then go through the steps really quick, and now go help others, but you don't know the actual 6, 7, 10.
Lack of balance, lack of self-care, lack of
So you gotta be sponsoring with all 12 steps.
Yeah, you got to be doing all the things.
Well, just a triangle.
And the treatment centers don't prepare you properly. So you're missing the rudiments of a healthy program. And then you start sponsoring.
That would be where I see it.
And it's crooked right off the bat. Because you're sponsoring and you never built a relationship with anybody. The most important part about sponsoring is building the relationship with them. So that you can fucking be effective. And building the relationship as the sponsor. I'm learning a lot of shit. Getting them at step 5. And then working through those later steps. And only doing like a 2 or 3 hour step 5. Like it's all crooked. No, and that's good. And good question. And, you know, every answer can be somewhat complex. Because every situation is a little different. But on the norm, you know, the big book and sponsorship from the start is the way to go. The treatment centers and opinions in the rooms have really warped what this book actually says. And nowhere in the book does it say 90 meetings in 90 days. Nowhere does it say I do my step 10 at night. Nowhere does it say a whole bunch of shit. But in the same breath, you know, that's the way it is. And that's why you guys are learning a different way. So that you can teach that. Because I've seen the ripple effect of what guys like me are doing out there. And I know that this can happen. So that's all we can do. Right? And it's working. right? As long as you guys take that seriously and take God's work seriously, it can fucking transcend into ways that are, incalculable. Before you relapse? Listen to what the advice is of people and then do it. But most people won't do that. You had all the advice. You've heard me share that same advice about 100,000 fucking times in here. And when you peel back the layers, you fucking knew. But you needed to make your own path. So I would say, listen. Don't need to fucking make a mistake. You can listen to people. And then I always say, maybe you don't trust God. Maybe people don't trust God to make the right choices for God yet. But you can trust people that you fucking see and believe in at the start. Right? You get what I'm saying? And like, you didn't make a mistake. You're learning. You're here right now. And how many of us learned that exact lesson that you did? Like fucking Amanda, did you?
I'm hoping. I'm hoping I did, right? And
Right.
I definitely agree with Barb and stuff. Like, from my experience, I have to make these bad choices for me to learn and see where it is there's growth needs to be done. And it's lacking in my program that made me relapse in some part. And then it manifested because I did the things and I did lots of things.
And you were also told.
And I was also told, and I knew.
Right.
That, there's lessons I need to be.
We don't have to make those bad choices forever to learn.
No.
We make those bad choices a couple times so we freaking learn to listen to somebody.
Well, I know for
Right.
me, I've always had to learn the hard way. Always, my whole life.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as long as we can make it back here,
Yeah.
that wasn't for nothing.
Yeah.
The only problem is that a lot of people don't make it back.
Yeah.
Right? They do die. Right? All it takes is selfish self-centeredness to take us out, and we never come back. Right? But then the lesson for us is we use their lesson to help teach us. And then the other thing is relationship inventory, super fucking important. The sex conduct relationship inventory, I don't even like calling it sex conduct, relationship inventory, massively important. And Robin, I guess that's part of my answer. You want to see patterns in your life? Fucking do relationship inventory, man. Like, and not the treatment center style. Like with somebody that's good and through the fucking exact directions of this literature and following that and doing a step 5 on your relationships and with somebody who's there to call you on your shit, you'll fucking can't deny that shit. And that is like, that's where it all stems. It's in the relationship inventory. And that's a good way to combat it when you're struggling with. But the thing about relationship inventory, when you're in a relationship, you're going to see you shouldn't be in it. And now you're in a fucked up inner turmoil because you don't want to hurt somebody. You don't want to let it go. There's all this fucking untreated alcoholism now spinning around. And then to make that choice and leave that, it's fucking super fucking hard. That's why we shouldn't get into it without the tools to begin with. But if we do, we grow. Okay. I did it. I didn't drink though. Some people do. Barb didn't. She made it through. And everyone's a little different, right? So anyway, let's, so I guess the point behind that story was you got to blow up the shit to find the diamond, and the diamond needs to be shaped, and that can only happen through work and through time and through willingness. Okay? And when you look at step 6, because I always talk about step 6, are you the fucking boy or are you the man? Right? Are you the fucking girl or are you the woman? And sometimes you're going to go back and forth a little bit. But the goal is to kind of seek that perfect objective, not the self-determined objective. A lot of the self-determined objective is just symptoms of our broken parts of us that we're trying to fill through things from outside of ourselves. And those healings come through working with others. Most of that. Everyone wants to heal their inner wounds. So what most people do is they go and do trauma therapy stuff. The trauma therapy stuff is not going to fucking fix you. It's fucking a set amount of time that goes deep into your fucking subconscious, and you're bringing light down there on shit that doesn't need to be fucking have lights on it yet because you ain't fucking ready for it. But the desire for me to want to be well so fucking bad, I'll do anything. But I don't understand. I'm stirring up a bunch of shit that I have no right to stir up because it ain't ready for me. So we don't bring the light to the dark. We bring the dark to the light over time. Through working solid program, it will naturally come up, especially in your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th year. It's not coming up too much in your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fucking year. I'm almost guaranteeing you that. The trauma, the guilt, the shame, the grieving, the loss. And I'm talking grieving of self, grieving of relationships, grieving of jobs, grieving your old traumas. Like, that shit ain't coming up, man.
My trauma came on major bill. Huge because of physical and sexual abuse. Well, most sexual abuse and prostitution. Huge came up. But again, in a relationship.
Yeah, but it's not done.
I was in a relationship. No.
It's not done. You got a whole lifetime of fucking healing that shit.
Yeah, and I do believe like that. I believe that like I'm like I will grow with this. These steps will help me through this.
Yes.
Right, and it slowly was, but I went back on that stuff, and which is why it got worse. But other people are like, yeah, go to trauma therapy, go do all these things. I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to bring all that stuff up when I'm not ready.
No.
I'm not ready for that stuff.
No.
Right, but I do. Yeah, I definitely agree.
God will bring it up when you're fucking ready. If you're working a solid program.
Yeah.
And that's emphasis. Solid fucking house cleaning. All the aspects of the program. Keeping a clean house so that you can deal with the shit when it comes up. So it doesn't deal with you. And it will deal with you.
Yep.
Go ahead. Well, you're gonna get a biased opinion from me. I think everything can be handled in the steps. And whatever can't be, you will reveal itself for outside help. Everything can be handled in your life and in your subconscious through the steps. And what can't be will be revealed so that you can seek the outside help. That's me, man. And the steps are designed to help you connect with God. So as you move through, God knows what you can handle, when you need to handle it. And because if you're implementing the structure of the steps, you can always have your tools to fucking navigate it. And like Anna said, it comes up little by little. Just as much as you can handle. We don't need to go dig in and start stirring shit up. To me, that's a mistake. But the norm in our society, that's normal. Okay? The norm in our society is to do that. But I'm talking from 300 sponsees in. I've sat for 30,000 hours one-on-one with people talking about this shit. Like, I'm talking out of my own bitter experience. I'm not even talking about what I studied in fucking college or school, or I'm talking about what I've learned one-on-one with people. And to me, that's fucking far more valuable than what I read in a fucking book or what someone teaches me in fucking university. But they don't think that. They will never think that. But I know. Because I see the results in my life all around me every fucking day. Okay, one more thing on trauma before we move on. There's also a trauma that we don't talk about. Trauma in our society is this big word that means something really bad that's happened to you. Granted, that's a trauma. Okay, good. But that's not it. The trauma to my spirit of me going against myself through the little things that I've learned in society to sell and go against my own heart and soul is a trauma to my spirit. Through the trauma to my spirit, I make decisions in regular life that actually get me into traumatizing situations. So the program also works on the smaller, but actually in many cases more important traumas that we'd never seen as a trauma before because we dishonor our own consciousness. And that perpetuated itself through our whole life. And this program heals that too. Whereas mainstream trauma therapy will never fucking show you where you dishonored your small pieces of consciousness. And those parts are important for healing also.
I believe that trauma is what took me out.
Yeah, it's that's actually the root of it all. Okay, let's get going here. You guys are fucking making me take way too long. Okay, so I'm going to the bottom of 72, and I think we're in a good space here. We're talking about pain to growth, okay? I'm going to read the very bottom sentence or paragraph on 72, but I'm going to read the line just above it, okay? The basic ingredient of all humility is the desire to seek and do God's will. So to me, that is what I define humility is. Okay, the level that I'm looking for in life, that's the diamond. That's that shaped diamond that's been chiseled through all the pain and suffering and learning and growing. I get this fucking diamond, and that is a desire to seek and do God's will. I want to be my best self, and I want to serve. So for us, this process of gaining a new perspective from step 6 humility to step 7 humility is this gaining a new perspective. Was unbelievably painful. It was only by repeated humiliations that we were forced to learn something about humility. It was only at the end of a long road marked by successive defeats and humiliations again, and the final crushing of our self-sufficiency, that we begin to feel humility is something more than a condition of groveling despair. So it tells me it's fucking not fun. It says humiliating twice in the same paragraph. At the end of a long fucking road marked by successive defeats and humiliations, that we're forced to learn something about humility more than a condition of groveling despair. So it's saying it's like the pain is a necessary part of this process. You have to go through it. The pains of drinking and drugging had to come before any of your sobriety. And now the inner turmoil has to come before your serenity. And the thing about the inner turmoil and the journey of the pain is because we're actually trained in our society to avoid pain. Everything in our society teaches us to avoid pain at all costs. Maybe if they fucking taught us the truth, that pain is actually part of life, and then we were fucking indoctrinated maybe with some belief system that say, you can do this. Learn how to grow through your pain. You don't need these drugs. You know, you got a little bit of fucking depression. Here's some meditation. Here's some self-help guys. Maybe whatever, right? But it's such a money game and pat them on the back and say everything's going to be okay, but it's not going to be okay. So learning how to navigate pain is really fucking healthy, because you learn about yourself. You don't need to take drugs, and you don't need to run from it. And that's part of our subconscious belief system, that we believe we shouldn't feel pain. Well, we're fucking humans. Pain's part of the deal. So once you accept that part, it changes, okay? So every newcomer in Alcoholics Anonymous is told and soon realizes for himself that his humble admission of powerless over alcohol is his first step. First step towards liberation from its paralyzing grip. So the humble admission that I'm an alcoholic is only the first step from its paralyzing grip. So it is first we see humility as a necessity. That's that groveling despair humility. It's a necessity. It's part of it. It's kind of like, icing sugar on a cake is part of the fucking recipe, and it's a necessity to have the icing on the cake, right? You can't have it without it. You can't have what we're looking for without the pain and humiliation. But this is the barest beginning. To get completely away from our aversion to the idea of being humble. To gain a vision of humility is the avenue to true freedom of your human spirit. And there's another promise of the book. True freedom of your human spirit comes through the shaping of that diamond. Through the pain and humiliation, you can fucking get this. But another important part of the sentence above that was to get completely away from her aversion to the idea of being humble. Does anyone know what aversion means?
To shy away from.
An intense dislike for. Okay? So what I want to highlight here is the word humility has a bad time of it in our world, like it said on the first page. Not is the idea not only intensely disliked, the word, because people associate humility with humiliation. So the word is intensely disliked. And it's often misunderstood, it says. And when you go to a meeting and they put humility on the board on a 3-topic discussion, there's about 1,000 fucking definitions of what people share on humility. Bill knows this. So Bill W., who is our fucking leader in this program, he wrote this right here. Let's get completely away from the fucking idea that humility means being fucking humble. He says that. And why does he say that? Because he gave us the definition of humility. A desire to seek and do God's will. Where does that tie into the big book? To be an intelligent agent and be a spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. Collect the data of your life. Use your experience of blowing up your fucking self in the mountain, excavating that material, finding that fucking diamond, helping others, going to meetings, being around and collecting the data in an observational fashion so that you can be a spearhead for God's ever-advancing creation. And if God is love, then you're a spearhead in this program for love. That's what Bill's talking about. And when you are like that, it says it's freedom of your human spirit. And like, you know, I'm going to use my example, and I can use Barb too, because I know Barb's with me on this. And I know Michael's getting there too. Like, working for God as your number one job and not fucking veering off for no one, nothing, zero. There's so much value in that. There's fucking nothing that it will steer me off of my fucking path for a creator today. No woman and no money, no status, at least at this point. I haven't had to really fight that in a while now. And I'm good. And I have a freedom of my human spirit that I fucking know a lot of people don't have. I don't fucking struggle in my life with fucking much. And I don't have much, but I have a lot. But that doesn't make sense to people. When I've offered sponsees, I'm like, okay, somebody new, I'm like, okay, if you could have the peace of mind and you never worried about a fucking thing in your life ever again, and you were happy with everything, but you didn't have much, but you had a place to live and you had a job and you had a car, but you didn't have much, or you weren't happy, but you had the hottest girl, the biggest, best job, and the biggest status, what would you pick? They're always like,
I literally just did that before you.
Right? Why? Because the fucking delusion that we can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world, out of step 3, if we only manage well, is so fucking ingrained in us. Like, if you could be just happy as fuck with fucking very little and live your best life better than you can comprehend, we still got to think about that. It's fucking pathetic.
But it's like, I know what I would pick, but like there was that, right?
Right.
It wasn't like do I really want to be unhappy and have everything? Like I knew that I would take nothing, but yeah.
Okay, God's gonna put you to that test. Watch.
Yeah, well, he has that. Like I'm in that point-ish, right? Like I got offered a good job. He said no, you know, my car is gone now.
You're single.
I'm single, you know, but I am much happier than when I had a nice house and was driving a brand new Denali SUV and had, you know, like I am much happier.
And you're learning. You just got to do what you're doing. You just got to do exactly what you're doing. You're aware of self-pity to watch out for it. So you're there. You're talking with your pillars. You're working your program. You're doing all the things. And you know what? That's all you can do. And that's it. Okay.
Sorry, no.
To gain a vision of humility is the avenue to true freedom of the human spirit. That's a promise. To be willing to work for humility is something to be desired in itself. It takes most of us a long, fucking long time. A whole lifetime geared to self-centeredness cannot be set in reverse at once. Rebellion dogs are every step at first. Okay, so to be willing to work for this like humility actually takes most people a long fucking time. Why? Because step 10. They do not understand step 10. You don't have to take a long fucking time to get there. You can take a short time if you follow the fucking process of step 10. Because that's exactly what step 10 is doing. It's allowing you to seek humility as something to be desired, even though when you first work that, it's mostly step 6. So there's a lot of fucking humiliation and pain involved. But you're seeking it. And then the fucking gifts come quicker. Most people will live their program on the best of intention, and then they guess what God's will is. They don't know the fucking practical application. And then so it takes them a long time. And most people don't even fucking find genuine humility. That's why Bill says most don't even having a nodding acquaintance with humility as a way of life. And this becomes a way of life. Living with love, living with God. But the only way to get there is to fucking get rid of the shit that's not love and not God. Which is the ego. Which is edging God out, because edging God out means it's absence of love. And my best of intention can hide the absence of God. Because I can think that it's there. I can think I'm doing the right things. But you got to always stop and go, why am I doing what I'm doing? What's under the layers here? And almost always it's a fear. And if it's fear, then God's not there. So that's why step 10 is so fucking important. And then it says rebellion dogs are every step at first. The rebellion dogs are the temptations. The rebellion dogs are your old subconscious trying to pull you back the other way because that's easier and fucking, it looks like I should take this job or this money or this guy or this woman or fucking yell at this person or whatever it is. Looks like I should do that. That's what makes sense. And it doesn't make sense to go this way and not fucking have that. And these are the rebellion dogs at every step. At first only. But if you don't work the actual practical application, these rebellion dogs are every step at first forever. So that's really important shit right there. The whole lifetime geared to your self-centeredness, your selfish behaviors, your defense mechanisms, your weapons. And the thing about these weapons or these behaviors and coping mechanisms is they actually served us very well for a long fucking time. They actually expanded our life. Anger actually got me a lot of respect, right? Fucking manipulation actually did a lot for me, right? You know, the way that guys act and fucking get women really works well for them for what it was that they wanted at the time, and vice versa for women. And it works well. But once you start walking a spiritual path, these things will not serve you. And it's just like the drugs and alcohol when it talks about it in Bill's story. Bill's drinking alcohol and he said he began to forge the weapon that would one day turn in its flight and cut him to ribbons. And forging the weapon is like he's putting the fucking knife in the hot fire and the coals and he's fucking building this fucking weapon, right? He's forging it and he's sharpening it and it's fucking working, but it fucking turns in his flight and chops him up. And that's what anger will do. That's what lust will do. That's what your manipulation will do. And that's why when I say you got to have a clean house to deal with this shit as it's coming up so that it doesn't deal with you. Because this shit will crush you as your own self-imposed crisis that you could no longer postpone or evade. Right out of step 3. As we become crushed by our own self-imposed crisis of self that you can't postpone or evade because you can only use that shit for so long. And then it's right fucking here and it's caused you enough pain and you got to deal with it. Arrived at this point, it says, we are now squarely confronted with the question of faith. What am I going to do with it? I need to turn it over to God. So I'm going to use Amanda as an example, right? in her relationship. She tried. That old way doesn't work. And it's come back and it's cut her to fucking ribbons. And she's been crushed by her own self-imposed crisis. And it's right fucking here. She's squarely confronted with the question of faith. What am I going to do fucking now? And she has to go God's way. Because that shit will fucking kill you. Because it will cut you to ribbons. And it doesn't matter which defect it is. Just the bigger ones of anger and lust. And lust is just a headline, and anger is just a headline, because under lust and there's all sorts of emotional detachment, and same with anger. There's way more to both of those than what the highlights say. So let's bust there. And thank you for tuning in to the UDRcast. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. The viewpoints and the opinions expressed today were solely of the individual sharing them. If you resonated with this episode, please follow us and share this link with anyone that may benefit from it. Please visit us at BILLWARDLIFE to see everything that we have going on. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time.